All right, hello, I'm Dylan.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Totally Tangential podcast, where today we will be talking about whatever I can wing on the spot. No, not really. Don't worry. I put in like 2 minutes prep work. Don't worry, like before we
Oh,
called.
wow, so great. Call off the podcast last week, and then this week you're like, fuck it, I won't prepare.
Well, you see, the problem with me is the more time you give me to do something, like the more time it just gives me to push it off. So I really need strict deadlines.
Oh my god, yeah, you and I both have the procrastinator mindset.
But the thing is, normally what happens is I'll have like one day to do something, or like 6 hours or something, and I'll crank out a really good product. So we'll see how today goes.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, like we were talking a bit before, that there's probably enough stuff to catch up on since we haven't talked we've talked within the 2 weeks, but we haven't done, podcast-worthy catch-up stuff in the past 2 weeks. So that means that your topic doesn't have to be too long.
Well, yeah, even just like a little bit behind the scenes, like I feel like we've been purposely withholding information from one another to save it for this.
Yeah, that's something where even while I'm at work listening to my other podcasts, I just feel like, shit, some of these guys do, like when they're outside, kind of like a gotta do it for the gram situation. They gotta do it for the podcast. I'm like, I'm not really feeling down to go to this party, but, I'm sure there's gonna be a good story there or something. And I just feel like, damn, you and I don't live interesting enough lives or have interesting enough friends to do stuff with nearby where it's like, gotta do this for the podcast. It's like, nah, it really is just basic shit. But if the opportunity comes up, I will have a do it for the podcast moment.
I get what you mean, but thankfully the last 2 weeks I've been on my summer vacation with work. But point being, oh man, I've been living it up, trying to go out every single day so I could get stories for you, not so I can enjoy my own life on its own merits.
Honestly, I'm
So,
surprised that even for an enjoyment's sake that you'd go out every day, because I remember you're Mr. Like, oh yeah, I hung out with this person, so I have to wait at least 2 weeks before I hang out with them again. You have your, timing thing with all that stuff.
for what it's worth, I think it's solely just because I know that in about 1 week I'm going to go back to having no life with school. So it's a bit different. Like if I had an indefinite amount of time, I would be scheduling it out more.
Fair enough. On the topic of school, how many units are you taking this semester then?
This upcoming one just 6 and not accelerated this time around. So I'm officially just a half-time student, and hopefully it is less time consuming than my previous semester.
Interesting. If you're doing halftime, like, are you still going to be able to graduate within the timeline that you want? Or is that why you're doing halftime? Or, I don't know, like, even if you're decent at the job that you're at right now, considering how much you love your manager or whatever, I'm surprised that you'd be fine with sticking around for longer at the job than needed.
Well, part of it's that there's progression or whatever. I don't remember whatever. You have to take certain classes before others.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
Yeah, so I just have to push them off anyways. So it just kind of conveniently worked out that I can only take 2 classes this semester and only take 2 next, just because that's the way it works. The requisites, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, would you be finished at the college after next semester then, or would you have to still do more?
That's actually a good question, because it all comes down to whether they offer the classes at times that accommodate me. Because if they do, then I'll be done at, this college after next semester, which would be about next May.
Okay.
But the thing is, if they don't accommodate me, then I would just try to book it back into UCI and fill out that application, because then it makes no sense for me to put off so much of my life for a community college to offer the class I need when I could just go back to university.
Yeah.
Considering, since I'm a returning student, I can just submit the application anytime. I don't have to wait for summer or fall or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the only issue with that is I wanted more time to figure out if this was a major I was really confident in, and having one semester where I take 2 intro classes isn't exactly what I had in mind.
Yeah, I guess it's fair enough.
Especially considering I've been liking this job enough that even other people have brought up to me, both in my job and not. They're like, why don't you just study this? I'm like, fuck, man. I finally had a good self-realization a few months ago about studying something I want to study. Now you're trying to make me do something else. Of course, like, happy support and all that. It's just like, this is a good problem to have. It's just annoying.
What major would you need to, like, move up in positions? I mean, even you have the manager who kind of sounds like a dumbass at work. Does he have a bachelor's of any sort?
No, my position is solely uneducated, taught on the job.
Mm-hmm.
But point being, I guess at the community college level would be kinesiology.
Okay.
But otherwise, you would actually have to go to a specific school for it to go to, PT school.
Gotcha. Okay, then that's interesting. So, I mean, where are your thoughts kind of wavering right now? I know that you have more or less like 6-8 months to still decide things, assuming that May is when you'd be finished with that stuff. But yeah, what are you leaning towards right now?
It just feels a little, well, I don't really like to use the word, but quite frankly, scary thinking of the thought that, I had a plan after my original plan failed. I'm about to uproot the whole thing after 3 months on a job, which sounds extremely rash.
Mm-hmm.
But what also sounds rash is going back to university after taking 4 months of a major.
Yeah.
So it doesn't leave me in a great spot, to be honest. But also part of that is just that MSJC doesn't offer a ton of psychology classes in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a rock and a hard place. Granted, a good problem that could have disastrous results. So,
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
but enough about me, because I hate talking about me, which is a horrible trait for a podcast.
It really is.
I actually have a very specific question for you, but not the topic of the episode.
Oh, what is your very specific question?
How was your hangout with he who shall not be named but is one of your best childhood friends?
Oh, yes. Matthew. I will name him.
God damn it.
I mean, it's a generic enough name. I'm not giving his address. Plus, like I said before, the only listeners at this moment are you, me, my girlfriend, my mom, and occasionally my brother. So, we good.
Oh shit, we only have 5 viewers per... Not...
Yeah, but, I was going to say, it was good all in all. I was pleasantly surprised because the last time I hung out with him was like Christmas of 2020, and it was fun when he came there before, but it was really just like he came, we hung out, we talked for a little bit, and then once he felt like all the conversations were done, he was just like, yeah, I guess I'll go back after like one more day or something. So it kind of felt very rushed, where with this, I was glad it was a bit more intentional. If he would just come and we'd play board games, I told you there's that Terraforming Mars game that I've been playing with my girlfriend, and you can play it with up to like 5 or 6 players or something. So I thought that while she was at work, that I could teach him how to play, and he got really into it. And he actually, one of the games had ridiculous RNG with some of his cards, which was hilarious. But yeah, we had a good time. We played board games. We went rock climbing one time. We talked a bit. All the good stuff.
That actually does sound like a really fun time. It was probably good, catching up with him after so long, nearly 2 years.
Yeah, but something that he has that's a bit of an issue that you can relate to, that I want to hear your opinions on, since he's been dealing with them more proactively than you have, which is...
Hemorrhoids?
Do you have hemorrhoids?
No, I don't, but I'm still so confused as to whatever, let's just stay on topic. We're not going totally tangential today.
Balding and malding about your balding, which you have always, at least from my recollection, had more thin or hair, or at least not the world's greatest hairline, even in high school or middle school. Not to say that it was terrible, but it was never luscious like mine. And
no, I already started receding in high school. That's a true statement.
Yeah, and Matthew, also didn't have the greatest hair, but his didn't seem like it was receding. And like the 5 years since we graduated high school, his hair has gone to like, oh, I would believe me if you just showed that hairline that this is like a 55-year-old man's hairline. It's just super, super thinned out. The hairline is receding and all that stuff. And he for the past like couple years has tried different things. He's tried, Rogaine, he's tried needling, he's tried lots of stuff, and he said that like a month prior to him visiting here, he went to would a dermatologist be the doctor that you go to for hair as well? I know that dermatology is skin, but
I'm not 100% sure, to be 100% honest.
Either way, he went to some doctor that would specialize in hair, and apparently there's some there's some medication that you can take that is supposed to help with regrowing or stopping or something along those lines, and you need a prescription for it, of course. And like with a lot of things, because Rogaine, you're not supposed to see results within like the first 2 to 3 months, and needling, similar things. So with this, it's supposedly not supposed to start helping until like after a month, and you might even see like hair loss within that time, which is I don't know, you take a step back before you take 2 steps forward or something with it. But yeah, so he said that it hadn't started working yet, but he's like been trying everything he can do to get that shit back. And he said that, you know, by the time that he hits 25, if nothing's working, and he has a good amount of money saved up after being in the military and all that stuff, that he's just willing to do some kind of Elon Musk-esque surgery with stuff. Yeah, and he said that he doesn't have an issue like going bald or thinning, but he says when you're 23 and you have a hairline, like I said, of a 55-year-old man, feels kind of shit. Where if he's, you know, in his mid-30s or something that starts going, he'll be a bit more accepting about it. So with you having experienced this for as long as you have, are you just kind of like on the fuck it, you know, I have my hair, it doesn't look terrible yet, so I guess I'll live with it until I go bald? Or are you like, I mean, you have a decent amount of money saved up. Granted, you hate spending any amount of money, but you probably have enough that you actually could just go in for, you know, some kind of hair follicle transplant surgery. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on the situation?
Well, I'll actually like take a step back and just really quickly say like, yeah, no, that kind of hair loss fucking sucks, especially at this age. And because at this age, you're probably still like experimenting, finding your style, building your confidence, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
So it just being bald or shaved, whatever the case is, does not work for everybody, whether it's your head shape is wrong or whatever. For me, like, I actually quite like my head shape for it. The biggest issue is just how skinny I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember when I helped like shave your head, that I don't think it looked terrible, but you kind of looked like, you know how there's the Chad and Virgin meme?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm very aware.
You kind of look like the Virgin version of Mr. Clean.
You're not wrong. And it's just kind of annoying because actually, my middle brother, I guess both my brothers are shaved, but my middle brother, he has been, you know, shaving his head for probably about a decade now. And people don't think we look alike until I shaved my head, and then people realized how damn similar we looked.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is just about the same exact height as me, but he is jacked. So it works for him a lot better than it does me. So it's kind of a direct comparison about, you kind of, the Virgin versus Chad meme, except with my own brother. So it's just like, damn, I got to pick up like, I got to pick up like 60 pounds of muscle right now.
You really do. I mean, that's the thing that kind of sucks. I've said about it before, but like fashion or different just qualities can differ between races and all that stuff, where if you see like a Korean wear a bucket hat, you think like Korean hip-hop, you think, oh, that person's stylish. If you see me wear a bucket hat, you think that guy's racist and loves to go fly fishing. So it's kind of the same thing with like being bald or shaved as like a skinny white dude that you are. Like, you're either, oh, he's a chemo patient or he's a neo-Nazi. If you're buff, then it's like, oh, he's Vin Diesel, he's, you know, Mr. Clean, he's something like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I'll continue on this thread before I talk about Matthew in specific.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, like, I very much, like, approve of self-improvement, working towards making yourself a better person, you know, the kind of ideal version you'd want. The thing is, I have tried to gain weight before and pick up weight. You might recall that one summer between transfer where I just fucking... I don't know if you knew how much I was working out, but I was working out about 3 hours every single day, save for, like, 1 or 2 days a week, and I was gorging on food, eating when I felt like puking and still continuing to eat. Like, I did not enjoy the experience, and over those 3 months, I gained about 5 pounds, which was the most I ever weighed at 120, or I think technically, but like, that much work, making myself feel so fucking shitty, and after 3 months getting 5 pounds, granted, if it was like perfectly every 3 months I've gained 5 pounds, it wouldn't be an issue, but we know that bodies do not work like that.
Yeah.
So just, goddamn, I need to pick up like another, well, honestly, 15 pounds would be the absolute minimum weight my doctor wants me to be, but like, it's just absurd. I'm like, Jesus, I am not it's just not going to happen. Like, no matter how much self-improvement, my body's just not built. That is not my frame. So it's just kind of disheartening in that way. But as far as Matthew goes, he, out of the military, I haven't seen him in years, so I don't know what he looks like. But I imagine he is a bigger, stronger build, and I know he's really tall, so I could actually see that working for him.
Yeah, it's, that's the thing that makes it, like, kind of not great right now is, he's, like, 6 foot tall, like, right about, maybe an inch under or something, but, as opposed to being 6 foot and, like, 125 pounds that he was in high school, he's now, like, 6 foot, 175, so he's actually a healthy weight, and he's not jacked or anything, but he's in, good shape for sure. He swims often and all that stuff, but I think the thing that looks the worst about it right now is if he has a full head of hair, it looks good. If he shaves his head, I don't think it would look bad by any means, but it's just that, like, it's super obvious. Like, you can look at his hair and you can see the scalp because of how thin it is and the hairline and everything, where it's just one of those situations where he's obviously trying to hold on to something that he doesn't fully have right now, and if it comes back and, if he has to do surgery to have it come back, then that's completely fine. But yeah, I think it just looks as bad as it does right now because he's not committing to one or the other. Or rather, it's not like he can commit to the other one. He's trying, but it's some work to get his hair to come back.
Well, yeah, and even if he was to shave his head, the fact that he's using various products and methods to restore it, it would be a little hard to gauge if it's working if you don't grow it out. So I don't blame him entirely, even in that perspective, for sticking in the middle ground. But yeah, I don't know. As far as I go, as much as I hate to say, I have been, like, resistant to medications in the past just because of, like, various things with my mom or whatever.
Mm-hmm. She got addicted to Rogaine.
Yeah, she got addicted to Rogaine. Now she looks like a gorilla.
Oh no.
But all jokes aside, I know that Rogaine is FDA approved. The other one, I think, let me Google. I think it's finasteride or something.
I don't know. There's a few out there.
Holy shit! I actually got that right.
Oh,
but
shit.
Point being, yeah, I just don't know enough about the medications. I'm sure if they were dangerous, they wouldn't be on the market and everything. But it's just like, I don't know. And also, my hairline is bad enough, and I see how deeply it runs through my family, not even just my brothers, but literally every male in my mom's side of the family. I kind of just feels not even worth it, but maybe if I can get it comp by insurance, I'll try it.
Wow. Yeah, just it feels like too much of an inevitability.
Well, yeah, because it's just, I'm sure that they probably tried something at some point. I know for a fact my oldest brother did, but aside from that, it's just, if it's this deeply ingrained in my family, I know that the medications can only do so much. I don't know, maybe I'll give it a try one day, but it's not really on my radar because I don't really see me, so the only real area of my life it could affect me is, like, the dating sphere, and I'm not too worried about that right now. I have much bigger fish to fry, so...
That's fair enough. But I know that you and I both, like, not to say that we have horribly low confidence, but we're not exactly confident people, and even if it's something where you're not looking to date someone or something, I'm sure that, like, if you feel like you're not the most attractive person in the world, or if you just feel like you're a kind of piece of shit, it might not be the best. So I can understand with the medication stuff to an extent, but, like, with something that is more pricey but has more, like, proof behind it of it working and not just being some random shit with terrible side effects of the, like, follicle transplant and stuff like that. I know that it's pricier and all that, but you most definitely have the money to do that. Once again, I know that you don't like to spend money or anything, but if you, like, went bald tomorrow, pretty much, like, just boom, you lost all of your hair, and assuming that, the hair transplant guarantees you a full head of hair for, let's say, the next 10 years, would you consider it?
Yeah, I probably would. I'd probably wait till after I'm done with college and everything. Or
so maybe in 20 years.
Maybe when I'm in college is when I need the hair. That way I can get, the dating scene on.
Yeah, with your professors.
Hey, now, whatever. I'll take what I can get. They have money, that tenure and whatever.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, I'd probably be pretty open to it, in all honesty. I just have to look into specifics and costs.
Okay. Something that I also want to circle back to that I was going to make totally tangential, but you were too hard on your line, so I couldn't butt in there, was you said about gaining weight. And something that I wonder because you are just a horrible human being. Not from a personality standpoint, but you were like, you have had these medical issues in the past. You were born 3 months premature, so you have like a you have a deformed shoulder. You have acid reflux is the thing that I'm getting at. And I remember that like throughout high school, you and I would have sleepovers all the time, and you would be able to have pizza then or something. But then from your normal day-to-day stuff, you're Mr. Yeah, I'll have an apple and then some like mixed vegetables. And I know that part of that is because of just like trying to be healthier, having your taste and all that stuff. But I know part of it is just because your stomach will fucking hate you and destroy your throat if you don't. Yeah. So if that, I'm just wondering, like, is part of the reason why it's hard for you to gain weight is like, man, I could down a piece of cake every day, but then my stomach would kill myself, and the amount of apples that you need to meet that, calorie-wise, is like, shit, I gotta eat 12 apples a day.
That should be a pretty decent conclusion, though. At the time I was eating, like, I was gorging on a lot of, like, lean meat, so, like, a lot of chicken and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, because even then I wouldn't really want to gain weight through, like, eating too unhealthy of things either. Like, I want to be, fit, not, I don't want to trade one problem for another I'd be unhappy with. I'll put it like that.
No, that's fair enough. I'm just curious because, I mean, I know that this isn't the same for everyone, but I'll just look up, like, a calorie calculator, because with how thin you are at your height, like, I feel like you don't need to have too many calories. So you're 23, you're what, 5'6"?
Just about on the dot.
And you're what, 115 right now? 112?
Right now, 115.
115, look at you.
This is the most weight I've ever had on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And then what should I put for exercise? Light exercise 1 to 3 times a week? I just count that as like going for decent walks.
Yeah, put that.
Okay, calculate. So for you to, let's see, mild weight loss, extreme weight loss. No, I don't want you to lose weight, Jonathan. That's ridiculous. Does this not have a weight gain option?
No one wants to gain weight, it's just me.
Oh, calorie calculator. What about Mayo Clinic? Mayo Clinic's got it. You're 23, you're 6'7", you weigh 115, you are male. You are somewhat active, you're not a total piece of shit. Let's see. Well, at least for, like, keeping your caloric stuff the same, if you didn't want to gain weight or lose weight, just stay the same. It says 1,950 calories a day. So yeah, I can imagine for you with how skinny you are and just like financial situations and the food that you can eat. Yeah, I guess like if you were to gain 1 pound a week, you'd be having to have like 2,450 calories, and it's not hard for me to do. But also, I'm not eating the healthiest shit. Where if it was just made out of like mixed vegetables and fruits and some lean meats, you'd be spending a lot more money, and it would just be kind of hard to eat that much because those things tend to be more filling.
Yeah, and this is actually a funny thing. At one point in my life, I was kind of like obsessing over like, I don't know the proper term, macros or whatever, but like just like watching like carbs versus sugar versus sodium, all that kind of stuff.
Sugar is a carb, Jonathan. Come on.
And what happened was, along with it, I ended up like tracking calories. And part of the problem is just how little I need to like function on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. I eat like at the time before I started like trying to gain weight, I was probably eating 1,200 to 1,300 a day and feeling satisfied. Mm-hmm. So it's just like I'm genuinely having to gorge myself just to hit the daily thing that you looked up. So it's kind of awful.
Well, from the time that you lived with me at my mom's house during the beginning of COVID, it doesn't surprise me that it's hard for you to get there because, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of this is just because you felt kind of bad because you were living there for free, and I know that you were worried about that at different times, even though it was fine.
Yeah.
But you would literally just, like, you would often have one meal a day. Like, at the end of the day, you'd have your mixed vegetables and, like, your egg sandwich or something, and that was about it.
Well, yeah, because, like, I think my staple was one frozen meal, but it was one of the lighter ones, so I'll say 600, maybe 700 calories.
Which frozen meal?
I think she got a lean cuisine. I don't remember.
Lean cuisine? Okay, but even then, like, depending on what they are, those things can be, like, 250 or 300 calories.
I'm saying 700 to be nice to myself.
Okay.
And then I'd have a grilled cheese. I'd have cereal with milk and 2 hard-boiled eggs, or not hard-boiled. Sorry, not at your house. That was when I came back.
Yeah.
I meant the more or less over hard, because at that time I didn't want to learn how to Sunnyside hard, I guess, because I never learned how to flip until I got back to my parents' house, because I didn't want to waste your guys' eggs.
Yeah, but actually, you bringing up grilled cheese, what did I put on your grilled cheese that one time that was just, like, disgusting and made you question life?
You dumped lemon extract on it.
Oh, yeah. That was beautiful.
You couldn't even do, like, lemon juice or lemon pepper seasoning. You put lemon extract.
Well, I just love because you were so confused at the time of just like, is this bread bad? No, this bite's fine. This bite's terrible. What's going on here?
And I, like, ripped it open to be like, is there mold on the cheese? And there wasn't, which, I mean, that I would have assumed I would have seen it when I put it on the first place, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
I was just like, I must be fucking crazy.
Oh, good times. Good times.
Good times. But, yeah, so that was your hangout with Matthew.
Yes, that was. But,
Wait,
go ahead.
Really quickly, did he get to meet your girlfriend?
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, so he's the first person then, really, yeah?
Yeah, but you were, like, the first person to meet my ex, so there you go. We got some equivalent exchange there.
That's true. I remember us doing a Scooby-Doo puzzle together.
I don't, but okay. But I was going to say, unless you have masterful, wonderful, beautiful things that you want to talk about, I told you that I went to a casino last night.
And how did you do?
Well, I want you to guess that. So my game of choice was blackjack.
Yes.
Minimum bet was $5. I came in, and at first I said I wasn't going to spend any more than $100.
But you did.
We'll see. At the end of the night, how much was I up or down? And I will tell you that we were there for about 4 or 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours. You left with a profit of $33.
It's a very specific amount.
Oh, no, $35.
Okay. Well, you were wrong. I left with exactly net neutral. I did not gain or lose any money.
Nice. There you go. You got 4 hours of fun for free.
Exactly. I actually had the night before that I went, I decided to study like Blackjack Strategy of just how to optimally play blackjack hands and all that stuff, where if you average it out through, you know, all of the stuff, it makes it so you have like a 49.9% win rate, which is pretty much as nice as casino games go.
Yeah, I've actually seen that blackjack has a bit more layers to it than the average player knows, just because there's also like rules some people don't know about. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it's interesting with stuff. So just trying to figure different things out as far as that goes. And honestly, since the casino's not too far away, and I just like having fun there. I mean, she and I talked about it, and if I went net neutral and we could go like once every 2 weeks, saying we're not going to spend more than $100, because I never took out more than $100. I just said it like that to fuck with you. That could be a fun thing of like even if I lose all of it, like that's $20 an hour for some fun, and I paid $0 an hour for 5 hours of fun yesterday, so it's not necessarily going to go poorly, and you have the chance to gain money. But my goal, if we go there often enough and it stays fun, is I want to learn how to count cards so I can go to real blackjack.
I respect that, but don't they use more than one deck?
Yeah, they do, but counting cards... Counting cards, like, from what I've heard... obviously, the best thing to do is one deck, but most places don't do that. But, like, counting cards is, like, completely fine and feasible from what I've read and seen, up to 6 decks.
That is actually more decks than I expected. I thought it would, like, tap out at about 4. But, yeah I mean... Counting cards is really just memorizing the deck, what's left, and then probability, yeah?
From what I've seen, because I still want to, like, master the basic strategy, because I didn't do it perfect when I went yesterday, because it's really easy for hard numbers, which is any number that's just like, a king and queen is always a 20. But if you have an ace, then it's a soft number, because it's like, oh, well, this is 16 or 6, so I can still hit again, and even if I get a 10, I'm not going to bust. So soft numbers are a bit harder, because it's just like, oh, well, even though this is a 17, normally you wouldn't want to hit here, because chances are you're going to bust. But here, if you get a 10, it's still a 17, and if you get a 4, 3, 2, or another ace, then now you have an 18 through 21. So I have to, like, get better on the soft numbers and that stuff, and, like, what numbers to split, because if you have two of the exact same number, like a 9 and a 9, you're allowed to, rather than just have it as an 18, you can split it, so you now have two hands. You have to pay an extra, $5 or whatever you're doing. That way it's like, oh, now I have a hand that's a 9 and a hand that's a 9, but since you're most likely get a 10 when you hit, you'll probably have two hands that are a 19 and a 19, which is going to beat most things. So, some of the splits and some of the soft hands are harder for me to do, but I even downloaded an app for, like, practicing, more or less studying this stuff, and I have a 100% ratio for the hard hands. It's just the soft hands that are a bit harder.
Yeah, that's fair, because there's a lot more variables introduced, but it seems like you're learning pretty quickly, and honestly, I don't think counting cards is the hardest thing to do in the world, so I think you'll be able to get that too.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not anything where I'm not trying to go out here and be like, yeah, I'm going to be, this Vegas card counter, I'm going to make my life's livings off of this, but it's just
but you want to be competent.
Yeah, I want to be like, hey, if this is a fun thing to do, and, it can kill 4 or 5 hours of time, and I can, like, swing it so, like, every time I go, I come back with an extra $50 or $100, then, like, I'm absolutely for it. And it's also nice because even though card counting is frowned upon by the casino, it's not illegal by any means. Like, if you are so obviously card counting and you just take, like, $100,000 off them, they'll be like, yeah, okay, you're banned from the casino. It's not illegal, but we can say, fuck you, this is privately owned. But, like, at the end of the day, the risk is, like, practically non-existent.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I wish you the best of luck with it, though. Like, I'm going to be interested in your budding gambling career.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll let you know how that goes. But like I said, I'll probably only go once every 2 weeks or something and still do the, like, $100 maximum thing. So don't expect me to be coming out here with my $50,000 winning stories for, at least 2 days.
2 days? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll be expecting it in 2 days, even though you won't be back for 2 weeks.
Yes, and also we don't do podcasts on Tuesdays.
We could do podcasts on any day. We could do it on every day of the week, Dylan, and then just burn through our topics.
Oh, yeah, well, it would also be terrible for me, though, living on the East Coast versus you on the West Coast, where it's like, great, I can't start the podcast until 9 p.m.
Yep, and then keep everyone awake. It'd be great.
Yep.
Oh, well. But that is that.
Yes. Do you have any other catch-up things within the past couple weeks? I'll try to think of mine, but if not, then we can go into your amazingly prepared topic, I'm sure.
I mean, I've got a few things I'll just, rattle off the top of my head really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, I went to my friend's house and we played the new Dead by Daylight visual novel dating sim.
Oh, how was that?
Honestly, kind of shit.
Oh, really? Like hilariously shit, like the KFC dating sim, or like, oh, this was clearly just made because the concept was funny and then no effort was put into it?
I'm honestly leaning towards the latter, because, like, I didn't find it that funny, even though it was made, if I'm not mistaken, by the same people who did the KFC dating sim.
Oh, okay.
But, to be fair, Dead by Daylight has a lot of, like, lore behind it if you actually really want to read into it, and I never did.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like me and my friend were like reading it, voicing over and having fun for the first like 20 minutes, and then we kind of got like bored, so we're kind of just like skim reading through the rest of it, and it never really like picked up, to be entirely honest. It was just it wasn't emotionally fleshed out enough to be that kind of dating sim, and also wasn't funny or inappropriate enough to be the other kind of dating sim. So it's just like kind of lukewarm. It's kind of boring.
Oh, that's too bad.
It was too bad. But in the end, we got to rub the feet of the spirit killer. So really, I think that made up for the whole thing.
Yeah, anything to do with feet, I know, would make your day.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we bought the game.
Oh my god. Well, then I'll hit you with another useless topic from me, which is, I'm an anime manga guy. Less anime in the recent years, but still. And something that I did not know, because certain things are super obvious with like Naruto and Boruto, made by the same person. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, same person. But I'm not sure if you've watched it, but have you heard of Hunter x Hunter?
I have, actually.
Okay, and this one I'm not sure if you've even heard of, but have you heard of Yu Yu Hakusho?
I have.
Okay. Like, Hunter x Hunter has also started in the 90s, and I think Yu Yu Hakusho was the 90s or very late 80s when it started. So I did not think they were by the same person, but no, they're by the same person. It's just, Yu Yu Hakusho, then, a year after that finished Hunter x Hunter, and then the Hunter x Hunter writer is, famous for kind of like the Berserk writer of just constantly having medical issues, so even though it realistically should have 500 more chapters than it has and should be finished at this point, it's still ongoing because he takes 4-year breaks at a time. But yeah, they're both by the same person. I had no idea whatsoever because the art styles are not necessarily the same. The storylines are they're both shonen, but they're not obvious repeats of each other. And I gotta give the guy props. He's made 2 huge series that both have done very well, and both are not copycats of each other whatsoever.
That's actually kind of cool. I like the ability of the author to be able to tell a different story.
Mm-hmm.
I guess kind of something that I've been getting into lately. This is just a different topic, but close enough. You know the movie Your Name, right?
Yes.
Well, unintentionally, I don't know. Sometimes I just want to watch an anime movie. I'm like, well, who are the 2 directors I know? Him and Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
So I've just been kind of going down his catalog of movies he's made, and now I've watched 6 of them, I want to say. It's kind of weird because at their core they're all the exact same story almost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just different setup around it, except for Weathering With You. That one's actually kind of different.
Yeah.
But point being, it's just at the core I can tell, okay, this is made by the same guy even though they're different stories. In that case, just the diversity and ability to tell a different story is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, and you're saying that with things being similar between other movies, it's definitely the same case with anime that makes it kind of hard, especially if you're going the shonen route, because it's very, very, very stereotypical of just, okay, here's a character. He's kind of weak, but he's actually kind of strong. And then he goes on an adventure and becomes the best. So, you watched Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime and the movie, and you said that you did not enjoy the anime just because the main character was just, such, essentially, a shonen protagonist. And it's just, it is interesting trying to make something that, fits within that realm, but also sets itself apart enough. It's how do you make it the same but different?
Yeah, and I'll clarify one thing. It's not that I dislike the anime, it's that I liked everything except the protagonist, because he's the protagonist. It just put a sour note on the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's a tough balance for sure. How do you tell something that hasn't been told yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but either way, that's a cool connection there.
Yes. Well, do you have any other schmexy stories?
Let me think. I did get to catch up with my friends who I made in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they kind of came back on a spontaneous kind of thing. My friend was like, hey, you want to hang out this weekend? They're coming back. So, I met up with them and everything, but it's just kind of interesting because, the whole thing was improv, so we're supposed to meet up at the beach. And then we, met them at the beach, and they're like, actually, let's go back to Hemet. And I'm like, I didn't drive, so I don't care. It's not my gas. So we went back, and then we had Mexican food. We went to a bar and played pool for a few hours. Next day, we went up, got breakfast, and went to the mall, Barnes & Noble. It was pretty fun, and it was just a completely different context aside from the bar and pool that I met them in the first time. But even then, we didn't drink a whole ton the first time either. So it was just interesting seeing them in a different context, but we still got along. So I'm like, oh, cool. It wasn't just heat of the moment in Vegas. You guys are actually pretty cool.
Yeah, the heat of the moment when you had the random drunk dude sexually harassing you.
Yeah, that was very, there was a lot of heat in that moment, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was good catching up with them, and if I ever go back to Vegas, I have their contact info, so I'll have to swing by them. And,
all right. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. But, I'm sure I can keep coming up with little things, but we should get to the meat of the episode now that we're, 40 minutes in.
Yes, because meat rhymes with feet, and you love that.
As we established, nothing better than ghost spirit killer feet.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, so, as you know, I am an avid Better Call Saul fan.
Yes.
And, yeah, the show is like 2 weeks away from ending, then there's like no point to living anymore or existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just kind of interesting because that, and I started reading the Steins Gate Zero visual novel after finishing Steins Gate like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of interesting because I noticed like, myself getting like genuine attachment to the characters and everything. But then I'm like, wait, like, why am I getting a sense of relief seeing the characters from Steins Gate Zero again after finishing Steins Gate? Like, there's a sense of familiarity, but they're like not real characters. Or, coming back to Better Call Saul after the mid-season break, it's like, why does it feel like a friend came back after a year of not seeing them? Like, this should or should not be a feeling, I don't know, but it's very strange. So I guess I'm just gonna start by asking, like, have you ever had that kind of attachment to like a fictional world, characters, or whatever?
I mean, not exactly the way that you make it sound as far as like a friend or something goes, but I have had times where I'm sure that one of my favorite anime is Code Geass, and that was definitely one that I loved watching it. When I found out that there was a season 2, I watched it, and it was just great. I got like the collector's editions of season 1 and 2. I rewatched both of those like several times, and whenever I went back to it, it was like a refreshing feeling of just like, this is still Code Geass, quote unquote, and all that stuff. And when I finished it the first time, I was just like so attached to it and the story and the characters that it was hard for me to watch anything else, even if it was like hypothetically just as good quality, because I was still like, it's the same thing of if you break up with someone, there's that period where you're just like, well, let me just resolve this in my mind before I go for back on the market or something. So I've had that, but for me, like, the number one thing that I've had, like, attachment to and all that stuff, which, I mean, I guess this makes a bit more sense than the fictional stuff, but it's still there in a similar way, is with, like, YouTubers, where there's certain YouTubers that I've gone back to, like, Nigahiga was a big one, not anymore, because he hasn't been making content, but I'm just like, you watch him so much, and then, like, you don't watch him for 4 years, and then you binge watch all of the old stuff and the new stuff, and you're like, man, it's like reconnecting with myself as a child when I first watched this stuff, and this and that. And Rooster Teeth was one of those big ones for me, and that was something where I even kind of felt bad, because yesterday I was like, man, I haven't been into Rooster Teeth as much. I feel like they're kind of, going down, but is that just me because I don't watch them, or have they actually been going down, and just if you're on the inside of the community, it seems like they're still growing? And I decided to do, like, the most scientific research that I could do, which is Google Trends. So I looked up
There you go.
Rooster Teeth and looked at how they've been going in the past 20 years, pretty much. And they kind of peaked in 2013, 2014, 2015, which makes sense, because that's when I felt like they were the biggest, and I went to their convention in 2016, and they had, like, a huge spike at the end of 2019, I want to say, or 2020, because there was, like, an outing where there were so many people in the company who had, like, cheated or cheated on their spouses, or, like, had, like, sexual relationships with fans and all that stuff. And then since then, just because the company's been kind of like a Smosh situation, just super stripped of cash, so they have to go, like, really corporate with people who were telling them what to do and all that stuff, where now, like, on the Google Trends, which goes from 0 to 100, 100 being the most relevant, they're, like, averaging between a 7 and a 10, where when I was super into them, they were like, a 25 to 30, and they haven't been like a 7 to 10 since like 2006 or something, which makes sense because the internet wasn't even that big at that time. So it definitely does feel kind of bad of, like, I would go back to them and be like, these are still the same people, they're making content, they're growing, and now I look back and half of the people have left, half the people are like pedophiles, and it's just, it feels kind of shit looking back at that.
were the half that left the pedophiles at least? Or
No, the pedophiles stayed. The half that left were the ones who weren't pedophiles.
That's actually extremely unfortunate how that worked out.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, it's kind of funny because you don't know if it's you who changed, them who changed. You brought up Smosh, and actually I saw a really interesting YouTube video about it lately. Because I'm not going to say I necessarily agree with its takes, but it did have the numbers to back up their arguments. You might recall that the big thing about them was Defy Media screwing them over.
Yeah.
And, and, kind of restricting them creatively and artistically. But the video showed that once Defy got on board, their views exploded, and like a year or two after they stopped working for Defy, their views have plummeted, and their subscribers have plummeted, and just everything has dropped off the face of the earth, to where Smosh is if you look at their recent videos, have no fucking views.
Was this video by Sunny V2?
Probably. I don't know, maybe. That name sounds familiar. I'm not so subbed to the guy, I'll look it up. But have you seen the video?
I think I have, because he's a famous guy on YouTube because he gives notoriously just very negative takes on things, and some of them are decently researched, but some of them are just he obviously goes with people who are still relevant enough that they can pull in views, but basically just talks about the downfall of this person and this, and it's just a lot of people kind of hate the dude, but I have seen the video that you're talking about, and from what I remember, because I saw it a while ago, that it had some interesting stats in there and all that stuff. And the thing that I feel is kind of hard, when I think of what I enjoyed with Smosh as a kid, it was mainly just Anthony and Ian. And when they started bringing in more and more talent, it became less and less my thing. But at the same time, if you think about it, if it was flipped, when people just do the same thing over and over again, then it's okay, well, we've seen the same stuff, so it's not interesting anymore. So it really is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because if they just stayed as Anthony Ian doing food battle, food wars, whatever it was called,
food battle,
number 27, it's just okay, they've done this 26 other times, it's not very entertaining anymore. And then if they grow, it's oh, well, now they have new people, this isn't the Smosh that I used to know, it's not worth watching. So it really is how do you get out of that situation as best as possible?
Yeah, I think they borderline needed the new members just for their own sanity, also get new writers involved. But yeah, I genuinely, except for the case of nostalgia and going back to Smosh, I completely left before any of the cast came on board. I the only people I remember was Anthony, Ian's mom, and other people. So it's just completely unrecognizable to me. But I mean, they were evidently extremely successful even once everyone else got on. So I don't know. It's weird though, because number-wise they were just as successful when those people came on for the following several years. But I don't know anyone who associates it like that. So it must have been a completely different demographic by that point.
Well, it's also one of those things where, as I'm sure you know, having taken a statistics class, statistics are very rarely that easy. If you're pulling marbles out of a thing, it's you can be okay, it's this chance to get a blue marble. But with something like Smosh, it's okay, they grew after they got with Defy Media, but is that correlation or is that causation? Because also YouTube blew up and got so much they were making YouTube videos in 2007, 2008, but I wouldn't say everybody loved YouTube then, where by the time 2012, 2013 ran around, YouTube was the giant that it is today. I think that's around when they got bought out by Google or a couple years before, and it could just be that they grew because YouTube grew, and this and that, and it's hard to tell with things like that.
Why I was going to say, I didn't necessarily know whether to agree with the guy's claims, even though the numbers supported it. Because, a basic concept in football is that numbers lie, or numbers don't lie, depending what argument you're making. But, so it's just ooh, I've seen this story before. I've seen things where things seem to match up, but it's actually literally the complete opposite. So, you never know. All we can go off of is our own perceptions in this case. But, like I said, didn't subscribe to the guy because I'm damn, that was a decent video. I don't want to watch anything else by you.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, you're having more attachment to I guess personalities that you grew up with, not so much fictional characters. And maybe part of that's because, like, by the time we were growing up, we didn't really have the weekly watching an episode thing. Everything was streaming, so nothing was, like, throughout a period of your life. It was all just a 1 month.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's also just the fact that with, like, watching Rooster Teeth videos, you get to see behind the scenes and all that stuff, and they, at the end of the day, even if they're, like, playing up their characters a bit, just like if someone listened to this podcast, even if we, like, have topics that we wouldn't normally have, or, you know, this or that, at the end of the day, you're still Jonathan, I'm still Dylan, and Rooster Teeth,
And this
the people
is a totally
there.
tangential podcast.
Exactly. Rooster Teeth was still just the people at Rooster Teeth, where if you watch Better Call Saul, I can understand having a connection, but just in my mind, at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, but this character is just a character, because whoever the guy is that plays Saul, like, he doesn't believe any of this stuff, he doesn't do any of this stuff, like, I have no clue who he is as a person. So for me, I find it harder to have that attachment. It's easier to be parasocial when you get to see some bit of who they really are.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I definitely have also fallen prey to, like, parasocial, like, really, not relations, but, you know, dynamics and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I definitely understand that, but for me, as far as fictional stuff, I see kind of, like, a reality better than what we have. Not necessarily in terms of outcome, but, like, it's more exciting. Everything is bigger. There's deeper stories to be told and all that. So, like, that's kind of what draws me in. It's like, I don't want to call it escapism, but I'm sure you could, like, draw very simple, you know, connections there.
Oh yeah, I can understand what you mean 100%, and I feel that way, but it's less so for the characters and more so for the world and the story. Like, if I'm watching Better Call Saul, I don't feel that way when I see Saul. I feel that way when I am watching the show Better Call Saul and, like, thinking of that world as a whole, not as individuals.
Well, then let me kind of twist this in a different way. I'm not going to ask what your favorite shows are or whatever. I'm going to ask, like, what has been some of your favorite world building or character building you've seen? Like, as a decent example, like, Your Lie in April, you know, loved that show. The second half of it made me cry. The world is boring because it's just Earth. So I would never throw that out there. But, like, what's some, or, you know, maybe I can say it's really good from a character building perspective, but, like, what are some things that, like, stand out for you here?
Well, a lot of these might also just be less so because the worlds are great, and partly because I viewed them as a child, so they have sentimental value with them. But one of them for me that still gets me to this day is Digimon, because, like, as a kid, kind of like how you were saying with escapism and all that stuff, they get transported to the digital world, and they have, you know, these cool Digimon partners, dinosaurs, you know, giant bugs, stuff like that. And, like, me as a kid, it's like, wow, you know, I want my own Digimon one day, and I would even draw my own Digimon in my little, like, notebook and all that stuff, and be like, oh, this one's blah 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 mon, this one's blah 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 mon, and all that stuff. And I was just, like, hoping, you know, like when you believe in Santa and all that stuff, you're like, oh, I believe that I can, you know, go to the Digimon world just like them. And the thing that, like, Digimon, part of the reason why I love it so much more than Pokemon or things like that I grew up with, is Digimon, not just the world is cool, but the characters do have such growth, where the original Digimon, they're all, like, elementary school age approximately. In Digimon 02, they're no longer the main characters, but they still show up in the world, and they know the main characters of 02, and the main characters from 01 are now in middle school. And then, like, for the 10 or 15 year anniversary, they showed when they're in high school. And then for Digimon, like, in 2020, there was the Digimon, like, last movie that has the main characters in it, because all of the Digimon shows up to that point are, like, don't have those main characters. They just come back in movies occasionally as, like, oh, well, these are the ones that everyone grew up with. And in that one, they're in college, and it actually has scenes of them of just, like, man, I don't know what to do with my life, you know, I thought I could just be a kid and, you know, be with my Digimon forever, and that's clearly not the case. Like, his Digimon comes back from the digital world to the human world, and they're hanging out, and he goes in his apartment, he's just like, oh, hey, what's this under your bed? And it's a porno mag, and he's just like, oh, don't look at that. So it shows them growing up, and at the end of the movie, and, like, whenever I watch this, because sometimes I'll just watch the clip sometime, I just always cry, because basically the thing is that Digimon are there for you when you have potential to grow and all of that stuff, and that's when their forms can go up and all that. And once a child is like fully grown up and kind of reach their maximum potential, the Digimon, don't need to be there for the kids anymore. So at the end of the movie, after like the big final battle, it's a very solemn moment where there is no music, there is no background noise whatsoever, and basically the main character is just like talking to his Digimon. He's just like, oh, hey, I'll buy you a burger. What do you want to do tomorrow? And then you look over to the side and you just see a butterfly fly away and like little digital particles in the air. And essentially the Digimon is dead. And, he had to grow up and he went to college. He decided this is what I'm going to do with my life and all that stuff. And like that one, I enjoyed the world as a kid, but the characters, like when I was 5, they were, 10. When I am 22, 23, they are like 24, 25, and they actually animate it as such, with them being college age and everything. So it's something where, like, damn, the characters actually grow up with me, and it feels really real the whole time.
Well, yeah, I could definitely see why that would be kind of fascinating and, something that could draw you in. But the thing that I found interesting was you talking about how the person was trying to learn how to live in the real world versus the digital world. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a really ripping meta commentary from what it sounds like, because the show is, in a sense, a form of escapism, and it's trying to, like, if anything, address how the audience should feel. It's kind of what it sounds like. And I don't know, that's an approach I haven't really seen before. That actually, I could see why that would draw you in.
Yeah, that was something that I definitely appreciated of, with Pokemon, Ash is always Ash, and you're supposed to, like, live in this world where he's always 11 or whatever, and that's the, but Digimon basically said of, like, hey, you can still enjoy the things that you had when you were a kid, but at the end of the day, like, you're gonna have to move on and grow up. And I just thought of, like, damn, this isn't just like a cash grab. I mean, in some way it is, but because they're going off of the main characters, but they're saying, like, the main characters are gone after this. Like, they have lived their story, and it's time for you to live your story in life. And yeah, it's very touching, and it is something where it kind of, like, makes you reflect and to think of just like, man, I had these values when I was a kid. I was hoping, like, oh, Santa's real. Oh, I can go to the digital world. And then you kind of look at yourself after watching the movie and you're like, college is finishing up for me. I mean, at that point, now I'm finished with it, but it's just like, what do I want with my life? I no longer have these goals of going to the digital world because that's not real. And as an adult, I kind of have to accept that. And it's just like, shit, what do I do with my life?
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting because I feel like that's not a subject we see in a lot of media. At least I don't. Maybe I'm just getting in the wrong media, but I feel like a lot of media is meant to suck you in and not pull you out like that one is.
Yeah. But that's for sure why when you asked me, like, character growth-wise or world-wise, that one's, like, the number one thing that comes to my head, because it does that really well, but then there's the sentimentality that goes along with it of, I watched it when I was 5, 6, 7, and so on. Yeah,
no, for sure. I can definitely see what you're saying there.
Yeah, what about you, whether it be character growth or world building and all that stuff? Is it just things like Better Call Saul, or are there some, like, more deep cuts that I don't know of?
Throw out a low-hanging fruit, and then, I'll justify it a bit why I'm going to include it, and then I'll throw in another one after. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Spirited Away. Like, you might recall, I actually didn't really like the movie a whole ton.
I didn't remember that you didn't like it. I just remembered that it wasn't your favorite Ghibli film.
Well, I'll put it like this. It's not that I didn't like it. It's that given the hype and expectations going in, I felt underwhelmed. So I liked it, but I was extremely underwhelmed.
Fair enough.
And that opinion would get me murdered if anyone actually listened to this.
Yeah.
Point being, with that said, despite how underwhelmed I felt by many aspects, the world building specifically, like, I don't know, that studio just, in many cases, creates worlds I could not imagine. It's like, I want a TV show of just exploring this world. Sure, there's going to be fun stories and everything, but, like, oh my god, just the stuff that is in here is so surreal.
Mm-hmm. No, like, I feel you on that. A lot of, like, Studio Ghibli things, or a lot of the time for me, maybe it's because the main thing that I consume, but also I feel like it's just more common here, is in a lot of just Japanese or anime things, they do give off that feeling, and for me, it is like a very bittersweet feeling, because I think that the worlds that I see are like so amazing and magical, but like kind of taking back that lesson from Digimon, they're so amazing and magical, but also then it like when I'm done watching it, it makes me feel sad in a way, because it's like, oh, but that's not my world. That's not the real world. Like, that is a world where I can kind of escape into this movie for a couple hours, but then I come back and I just have this feeling of just like, you know, bittersweet solemnness of just like, yeah, but life isn't, you know, there's no like secret world with dragons and, you know, your parents turn into pigs and all that stuff. Like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I walk outside and like the sidewalk is the sidewalk, a dark alleyway is a place to get mugged, not a place to go on a magical adventure.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Like, it makes me wish that the world was more. But a few other examples I can think of off the top of my head. This one actually just came to mind, but this one maybe I shouldn't appreciate for his world building, but Silent Hill, oh my god.
Oh, okay.
Like, that is literally, yeah, the real world, sure, but it twists it into such a hellish nightmare, like, landscape kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And certain games revolve more around a cult storyline, others are more about, like, individual characters and their own personal demons.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, either way, every time it sucks me in ways that other horror games haven't, because everything else is largely just, this is a place on Earth that's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like, damn, I know this is on Earth, but like, bruh, this is like barely resembles it. Like, this is literally hell.
That's actually something that I find really interesting. Is I feel like movies are one of the best like platforms to have a lot of genres of like suspense, thriller, and that stuff. But you bringing up Silent Hill, because I definitely really appreciate those games. Even if I haven't played them, I've watched people play it on YouTube and I've read about them and all that stuff. I feel like horror is like the worst genre as far as movies go, because most horror just like relies on jump scares, where I've read horror manga or played horror games and those tend to deliver like so much more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem is it's impossible to pay off, because like, horror is literally all building and suspense, and the second you try to pay it off, it's like, very rarely have I ever felt it actually works. It's always like, oh, hey, you were better left as a mystery.
Yeah, well, that's actually what I was thinking about as far as certain... I think just mysteries in general go for me, because I think I had told you like a few months ago at this point that there was some end of the world movie that I was watching where, you know, in America, all of the like phone lines are down, you know, electricity's not really working beyond backup generators, like everybody's migrating this way or whatever, and this guy's like, oh, my girlfriend's in California, you know, I know she's alive, I'm gonna drive and go get her. And at the end of the movie, you still don't find out what the thing was, you just get the resolution of he gets his girlfriend after all of this shit happens, and, you know, they're driving off in the distance. And a lot of people are like, oh, I fucking hate it. You know, was it aliens? Was it war? Was it, you know, an act of God? And for me, I'm like, no, I think honestly that's the best solution, is not telling them, because unless you are some master of crafting, then at the end of the day, it's like aliens. Oh, okay, that's kind of cringe. Oh, it was war. Okay, I don't really care. Oh, it's an act of God. Oh, that's kind of stupid. Like, most of the time, the answer to a mystery makes it less interesting.
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you mean. And actually, have you seen Nope yet, or no?
Nope.
Yeah, by Jordan Peele. It's like a movie that came out like not too long ago.
No, I haven't even heard of it. Nope.
Oh, well, I'll avoid spoiling the entire thing, but like, there is something in it that is causing trouble, and this is one of the few times where I feel like the reveal actually held up, and I loved it, and all my friends loved it, but my coworkers hated once it was revealed, which was kind of interesting. So maybe it's just like the manner in which something is revealed as well.
Okay, yeah, that is interesting. I'll have to give Nope a try, because I do love the two other movies that I've seen Jordan Peele, like, you know, lead.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say is Nope is probably my favorite. I loved Get Out. I did not really like Us at all, but Nope is probably my favorite. That thing was like, had me like on the edge of my seat, so I would actually very much recommend it.
Okay. Yeah, I also agree with you. I really enjoyed Get Out. Us, I enjoyed, but also it just had so many more questions that weren't really answered, or kind of like ridiculous in my mind. Where Get Out was like, okay, yeah, this thing's kind of crazy, but like, if you've seen movies like Skeleton Key and stuff like that, it's just like, okay, it's this magical weird thing, but it's at least contained. Where Us was just like, oh, so there's like 300 million people underground and no one knew about this? That's kind of like, I understand that it was representative of like the disparity between wealth and blah blah blah, but still, like, when you're trying to view it literally, it's just like, okay, but this doesn't make sense in the actual movie though.
No, I completely get what you mean though, and it bothered me so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll throw out one other thing out there. And don't get me wrong, you know, I would love to talk more about something like, oh, I loved Nier Replicant, or I loved blah blah thing that you've heard me talk about a million times. But I'm going to throw out something I've never talked to you about before because I just did it 2 days ago.
Oh, did you finally watch Blue Period?
And I love... No. We're talking about good world building character... Well, it might have good character building, but I know that's just on Earth. So no good world building for you. But, I recently watched the movie The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a Dr. K video, but alright.
God, it really does. It's, in fact, a movie starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh.
Not the actor. Well, yes, the actor, but I mean the actor and the character, Nicolas Cage.
Oh, okay.
So, Nicolas Cage is starring as Nicolas Cage.
One of those, I gotcha.
Yeah, and the movie is definitely a parody and very fucking meta. But the thing is, it does it in such a way that through most of the movie, you're not entirely sure what is going on, to keep it vague in case you ever want to watch it. But I had my own theories throughout the movie that proved to be correct in the end. But it's just like, it sucked me in. I was like, dang, we have two completely like altering views on this exact same situation, and it's creating an entire fantastical world around something so fucking mundane, and it kind of works.
Okay, interesting. I'll have to give that a shot at some point then.
It is a parody movie, so keep in mind, don't go in expecting a masterpiece. But...
Well, yeah, I'm looking on Google Images of what it looks like, and I'm seeing Nicolas Cage holding two guns. So I'm not exactly imagining that it's going to be a very normal movie.
Yeah, and I mean, take people online reviewing it how you will, given it is a Nicolas Cage movie and people might be memeing, but it got a pretty fucking good reviews, like 86 Rotten Tomatoes, 7.1 on IMDb, so it's not a shit movie. Like, you know, it's funny.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I personally liked it, and honestly, it's out of the sphere of movies I normally watch as well, which is kind of nice, you know.
Which is any movie.
No, I feel like I haven't watched a ton of parodies in my life, admittedly. Like, yeah, I can't really think of a parody that I've seen in recent years. Like, I know I watched Scary Movie growing up, but, like, that was, like, when I was very fucking young, so I don't think that really counts.
Yeah, but also I feel like parody movies aren't a huge genre anymore.
Not really, which is weird, because I feel like there's more things than ever to parody.
Yeah, but now you have YouTube for that.
That's true. You don't need to make a whole movie for it. You could do a 10-minute video. That way you get the AdSense.
Exactly.
Does YouTube still even follow the 10-minute rule, or isn't it something different now?
From what I've heard, it's 8 minutes now.
It's 8 minutes, really?
Yeah, but even then, it wasn't like the 10-minute rule to like fill it with more than one ad.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I have a subject, like a thing on this.
Yes.
Dude. Okay, so a few days ago, I watched my first Mr. Beast video ever.
Ooh, which one?
I watched the one where he was giving, like, a subscriber an island or whatever, but I know he's done that more than once, so the most recent one.
Okay, that's actually on my homepage right now that I was thinking, I don't watch Mr. Beast, but I gave my 100 millionth subscriber an island. Does sound a little bit catching.
Yeah, well, I'll start by asking, have you seen a Mr. Beast video? Because that's going to change how I approach this.
Yeah, I've seen some before. I'm not a huge Mr. Beast guy, but certain ones I definitely will watch.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting because, you know, this was my first time watching him, and I never knew really what to expect. But I grew to expect that he would throw a lot of money at people and really high-level production. But what I wasn't expecting is it is very fucking fast-paced. Like, I thought he was doing a recap at the beginning, but like, oh, this is just the actual episode. He's just fucking bolting, like, point to point, which maybe that's only in some videos and not others. But, and then the other thing that really stood out to me was, oh my god, that guy fucking pushes advertisements in his videos.
Yeah, well, I mean, considering from what I've heard, because Ludwig, the guy that I watch a lot, is decent friends with Mr. Beast, and he even had him on his podcast. And most of Mr. Beast's main videos lose money or break even. Like, most of where he makes his money is just, like, his gaming and, like, clips channel.
I believe it, because those basically cost no money to produce, I would imagine. And, you got a lot of money in. But it was just interesting. It felt like... How do I put it? It was interesting enough that I didn't have issues finishing the video, and it was actually quite a fun thing to watch with friends, joke about, get engaged in for like 15 minutes or whatever. But it's also not something I'll go back to because it felt like, I don't know, man. It felt like I was like a 6-year-old trying to be like engaged with flashy colors on a screen.
No, I feel you, because like having heard Mr. Beast's takes from like being on Ludwig's podcast and stuff like that, I respect him from, like, his grind set and all that, but, like, I just don't really agree with how he views YouTube and making stuff and all that, where he's just like, oh, yeah, lots of money, bigger thing, these big stuff is gonna be like, oh, this is the clear way, or one of the clear ways that you can make, like, quality content. He's scrapped videos that he spent $1 million on that end up not being quality, but... I don't know, like, it feels so much of just like, yes, this is a method, but it feels similar to like, yes, you can become a big YouTuber or Twitch streamer of like, oh, Among Us is the flavor of the month, oh, Fortnite's the flavor of the month, or it's just like, okay, cool, but yes, you are very skilled at what you do, but it seems like he was shitting on just like, oh yeah, vlogs kind of died because they're shit. It's like, I agree that vlogs aren't super high quality, but there's something about vlogs that can be like really nice and entertaining and all that stuff. There's certain things about whether it be high or low quality content and this and that, and I don't know, he and some other people are just like, oh yeah, the people who don't make it big just don't try enough, and it's like, okay, granted, yes, if you just are doing it just for the sake of succeeding, that you can like mathematically go, what's something that will get views, that will do this and will do this, but it's kind of, I'm more of a cult classic film fan, where I'm not watching, yeah, I'll watch The Avengers, but I won't say that The Avengers is my favorite film over Parasite, where Parasite isn't the clear cut of like, oh, this is going to be a huge hit. It's just like, no, but it clearly has heart behind it. It could have been higher budget, lower budget, and I don't know, that's one of the things that I don't like about his stuff, is he just seems like, how do I get like mass broad appeal that kind of has not much heart behind it, but is generally high quality?
Well, that's the thing that's interesting about him, because I feel like he's the trendsetter. Like, I feel like he does things I don't really see anybody else do. But based off the one video I saw, which is basically no sample size whatsoever, I don't know, I didn't feel like any passion behind it. It literally just felt like something to shove advertisements in my face. Like, and you could say that's YouTube in general, but like, at least the channels I subscribe to seem to genuinely, largely, enjoy what they're doing and have a genuine interest in it. Maybe that's because at this point I just largely just watch small channels at this point, but I don't know, like, they chase trends, yes, but it's just hard to identify where the difference is. And again, it's just a one video sample size, so maybe I need to watch more, but... For
sure. From what I've seen, and like I said, from what I've heard of him, and this might not be one-to-one, but I feel like some people who will put their heart into like, okay, yeah, this thing is clearly going to be successful, but they're also clearly passionate about it, where the thing that he seems passionate about is making a successful video. It's not like he cares about giving a viewer an island, and this is something that he's always thought would be cool. It seems like this video is something that I can do that would be popular, and he cares more about the popularity of the video rather than like having a vision that he wants to create.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, I don't know how to feel about him.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But it was my first time being introduced to the man.
No, so. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta at least give respect. He was on the cover of Forbes magazine, and we're over here with, 8 viewers per episode, 3 of which being my mom pausing and unpausing the video.
Oh, God. Does YouTube... I think YouTube counts that as 1 view, right?
Well, pausing and unpausing it counts as 1 view, but she'll exit out of the video because she has work and then go back to it, and that will often count as 2 views.
Really?
Yeah, well, at least off of the stats for it, because I can open up YouTube Studio right here and go to the most recent video, which was podcast episode 6. It has 8 views, but if I look at the analytics and look at reach, engagement, audience. Audience, it has 7 unique viewers, but it has 8 views. So from that standpoint, it's like, okay, well, that means that at least one view or one person was counted twice.
Yeah, fair enough. Huh. I guess I just never knew how YouTube did it. I always just assumed if you were signed in, which you might not be. But I always just assumed that it would just pick it from where you were. Now I know.
Yeah, it counts views as views. So if you do watch a video enough times, like, I'm not sure how it works of, like, if you exit out and then open it right away again, is that considered 2 views? And what's the case with it? But yeah, you definitely can. If you just go on a video that has 1 view and go on it every single day, it will be like, 50 views with 1 viewer.
And then that probably wouldn't do too good on the algorithm.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, I feel like the algorithm is important when you're, like, doing very meta stuff or if you're already big. But for us, like, I feel like maximizing the algorithm isn't going to be that great at the end of the day because we're a podcast with no video channel.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying for the sake of discussion.
Yeah.
But, oh well, that is that. Let me think. Is there anything else particularly interesting on the subject of really anything? Because we spiraled.
Well, if not, there's no worries because we are at an hour and 15 right here. We did have our, 40-minute just catch-up discussion, so we are good to stop whenever you want, my friend.
You're right. This is the episode we really put our loyal listeners to the test to see how well they want to know about our lives. And me balding and you getting to see Matthew.
Yes, you balding and me molding. I'm not sure at what, but something.
There we go. I guess we'll leave it at that then.
Alright. Then hopefully next week we'll be able to post another one again and you don't take any vacations.
Well, tomorrow's my last weekend of summer break, so we'll see.
Alright. Well, we'll see next week. Hopefully you'll see next week, Mom. Alright. Well, ta-ta for now.
Toot toot for new.